Sesame. It's time for the Sports Vault with Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob.
Yeah, Joe, I think the Knicks are going to win the championship this year. They're going to beat the Heat.
Let me stop you right there, Rob. The Miami Heat will win the championship this year.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat. The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
The Madden cover winner in 2012 was Peyton Hillis.
Peyton who?
Running room in the edge. Peyton Hillis is loose. Sprint to the end zone. Touchdown.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have yet to win a game so far, Joe.
I think it's time to unleash Tim Tebow, Rob.
It definitely is.
Tebow looping to the left side. Tebow on the move. 10-yard line, 5-yard line. It's Tebow time.
Are you kidding me, Joe? Alex Rodriguez will make more than the entire Houston Astros roster this season?
I don't know what they're doing down there, Big Shot Rob.
That ball is high. That is far. It is gone.
You can listen to the Sports Vault every Friday from 12:30 to 1:30 on WICR.
Recording?
Yes, we are.
We are
recording here. This is the second time that on Opposites Attract here with Anthony, Carlo, and John Stanko that we spoke on the air a little prematurely.
You wouldn't answer my question.
Okay, you know what?
I asked you 4 times. Are we recording?
I should say.
Are we recording?
I should
Are
say.
we recording? Are we recording?
We didn't. Somebody did, not we.
Because
John
someone
Stanko spoke on the air
failures
twice. You
to
know what it is?
communicate.
These headphones, you know, I couldn't hear you at all. I'm sorry.
That's why you got to keep one a little bit off.
Well, you know, I'm not professional like you, John.
I'm not professional. That's just common sense.
I'm not perfectionist, you know.
I'm not a perfectionist. God knows I'm not a perfectionist.
Well, come on, give yourself a little credit. You know, you got the 1 ear on, 1 ear off thing.
That's just so I can
That's pretty
hear you.
good.
Yeah.
What an interesting way to open up the show this week.
Do the intro.
John
Get the show under the phone.
John Stanko and Anthony Carlo here on Opposites Attract. We thank everybody for tuning in right now in the basement of La Penta. We speak from WICR. You stream right now. Search it, and you'll be able to hear us. Obviously, you already hear us if you're listening. Mm-hmm. But John, it's been an interesting couple of, I guess, what would you say, week in sports or a couple of days?
I think the weekend really brought to light some new topics.
Absolutely.
We're gonna cover the NFL Combine happening over the past couple of days. Some people are really stepping out, some people falling flat.
Yeah.
Gonna talk a little bit of Iona basketball because they got a huge game coming up. First Thursday for the women, then Friday for the men. The biggest game of the year for the men.
Yeah.
And then we're also gonna dabble in what we're gonna talk about right now: NCAA basketball.
NCAA basketball, and you know what? I'm gonna say it probably wrong again because sometimes when I think of a name wrong, I just say it wrong. And Jim Boeheim. Boeheim. There we go.
Boeheim.
Jim Boeheim. I've heard it say.
He's the second most winning coach in college basketball history. You might want to pronounce it right.
You know what the thing is? I've heard it pronounced both ways. I've heard it not what I just said. I've heard Boeheim and Boeheim.
It's Boeheim. Whoever pronounced it Boeheim is wrong.
I've heard. I believe it was on ESPN, or maybe not ESPN, but another very prestigious sports.
I've never heard it pronounced any other way than Jim Boeheim.
Somebody said it Boeheim.
John Higgins, assistant sports information director, would be very upset with you.
If I said Boeheim?
He's a diehard Syracuse fan.
Because he went to Syracuse.
He went to Syracuse.
Yeah, all right. Well, Jim Boeheim came onto the court screaming and ripping his jacket off and going pretty much bananas on the referees who made a call against the Syracuse Duke game, made a call on C.J. Fair, I believe it was C.J. Fair.
Yes, it was.
A charge foul on a play that I basically would call a despicable call. It was a despicable call.
The way my take on it was, I watched the game live. It was one of the most anticipated games of the year. Cameron Indoor. I've been there. The arena is unbelievable. It only sits less than 10,000, but it's the most intimate place you'll ever play a basketball game.
Right.
When I watched the play live, I thought that it was the correct call to call it a charge.
I didn't.
Okay, this is when I watched it live in full speed. My first reaction was okay. If you're gonna call something, I think it's right you called the charge. Well, I will say, I don't think you call a foul in that instance. I think that play was too close to be called a foul.
Right.
I would not have blown the whistle. But when I first saw the play, I was like, if you blew it, which he did, I agreed with the call. But then I saw it in slow motion, and I was like, all right, he got under when Fair was already going up in the air in his motion to shoot. So
exactly.
So it should have been a blocking foul.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is I could see why the ref called the charge, because in real time, I kind of sided with him quickly.
But it wasn't a charge.
But then in slow motion, it wasn't a charge.
No, and I didn't see charge either. in real time.
Well, I did, but I do not think. I think that should have been a no call. I think that should have been you play through the contact. It was 2 bang bang. It was a basketball play. So my initial reaction was good call, but I wouldn't have called anything. And then replay showed maybe the call was a little bit incorrect, frankly.
All right. I mean, the only thing that I would disagree with that argument is basically when I was watching it, the play to me looked like there was really no charge at all. I mean, C.J. Fair, it was blatant that he was going up to the basket, and I didn't really see any move. I didn't really catch on to any demonstrative movement that would characterize a charge. I didn't see anything to the fact that would make me think it was a charge during that play. I mean, what did you see that made you think it was a charge in real time?
Rodney Hood got on the baseline when Fair went up for a floater. Right. He was not in the semicircle, so that was not a question. He was outside of it. What I saw was I thought in real time, watching it on my small dorm-sized TV, Rodney Hood got underneath him before Fair got up in the air, and then Fair was trapped because it was too late for him to pass. He was trapped, and it was a charge call. That is what I saw. But again, the replay showed that I think Hood got underneath him too late, and Fair was already in position, so it should have been a blocking foul.
Exactly. That's what I'm hitting my microphone again. That's what I saw when I watched the play. Is that Fair was already up in the air going to the basket by the time that Hood got underneath him.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't know. I mean,
it is the toughest call in basketball.
It's
Can we just get that straight? It is the toughest call in basketball.
It's arguably one of the toughest calls in any sport because there's such a fine line. You, as a referee, you have to be able to react and interpret so quickly.
There is a lot of discretion on behalf of the referee on what you think it is. I mean, we've watched games this year. There's been games where we've seen 4 or 5 charge calls and games where we've seen 0.
Right.
Because it's all up to that referee, that staff, if you will, or that one ref who thinks this is a charge, this is not.
Which makes you think, I mean, sometimes, do you ever wonder, should there be a more concrete way to call this?
I don't think you can have a more concrete way. I think the way it's written is the most precise you're going to get. But I think it's just going to leave a gray area.
That's the problem.
I don't think you can solve it.
The more precise it gets, the more difficult it is to call the play, which leaves the gray area.
Wait, explain that?
Okay, so the more precise it is to make that call, obviously because it's, as you said, it's on judgment a lot of the time because things happen so quickly. How could you accurately call it like that every time correctly? But what I'm saying is it's so precise that it leaves open to judgment for the referee, therefore creating a gray area because one ref might call a charge here where another ref wouldn't. You understand what I'm saying?
I mean, I get what you're saying that there's a gray area. I'm not sure that a more strict writing of the rule leads to that gray area.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, no.
But I understand that
I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say.
There is a gray area, and I think Jim Boeheim had a right to be upset.
What I'm saying is that it creates the gray area because it's so intricate that it's so hard to get it perfectly right every time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I will say this: Jim Boeheim got tossed for it. And while I think he had a right to be upset with the call, I do think he deserved to be ejected because you cannot go running to half court screaming at the referee after a call.
He did deserve to be ejected, but he deserved to react that way.
Yes, no, I agree. He deserved to react. He could yell at the ref, but do it from the sideline. Do it from within that area that you have. Don't cross that line. Maybe take one step of one. Maybe take 1 foot onto the court. You cannot go running to half court. Be flailing your jacket, chasing the referee, wanting to talk about it.
I understand, but what I'm saying is he deserved to do exactly what he did.
I do not. As a coach, you cannot run onto the court. You have to set an example.
No, but the call was that bad. That's personally how I see it.
Okay, the call was not that bad. The call was rough. I will give you that, but there have been worse calls.
You know what? I thought the call was bad. I thought it was a very bad call. I thought it was bad enough to give him the right to do what he did.
No, there's never a right. There's never a right for a coach to go running out onto the court like that. There's never a right for a coach to go running at half court and start going face to face with the referee.
Right. There's never a right, but
you are the coach. You have to show calm and composure on the sideline. You're not the one who's supposed to be wearing the feelings on your sleeve. Look at Coach K.
True.
Coach K in the first matchup against Syracuse.
But he's always composed.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing. In the first matchup, Duke Syracuse at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, Duke was going for a dunk to win the game. I do not remember who the Duke player was, but he went in for a dunk to win the game, and he got fouled on the arm, but no foul was called.
Right.
Dicky Vitale on the broadcast says, "Oh, he got hacked. And then Coach Krzyzewski, who did not get the foul call that time, was going like this. He was going, he got hacked, but he was smiling. He was not happy, but he did not go running after the referee. That is the way you have to be.
I can't. I have to watch that play right now. But can you tell me from your judgment, was it a bad call as a bad?
I think it was a clear foul on the dunk attempt in that first matchup.
You didn't answer my question. Was it as bad of a call as a play yesterday?
I think it was easier to call the hacking foul in the first match between Duke Syracuse when Syracuse went in overtime than it was to call the blocking / charge.
So it was more obvious to the fan.
I think it was more obvious to the fan that it was a obvious foul on the defense in that first matchup.
I'd have to see it then again because I can't. I don't recall. I'd have to see that play again. But I understand your point of view that you need to have. It's part of being a coach. It's your responsibility not to be ejected from a game.
I'm not saying not to be ejected from a game. I mean, you can get upset. You can get tossed from a game. Jimmy Patos has done it he did it at Loyola. He's done it at Siena, and he's still a great coach.
Sometimes it's a tactic.
Yeah,
it's a coach's tactic to light a fire under the team.
Exactly. So you can get ejected sometimes, but there is a way to go about it.
Right.
And I think in that moment Jim Boeheim lost his team the game because Duke got 2 shots and then the ball. And then they were able to get the ball back with 10.9 seconds left, and the game was over because he committed that technical foul, which gave them the ball.
I don't think I understand all that, and it's a very it's a difficult point to defer with you on. But
thank you.
What I'm saying is that in that moment, there was not much of an argument that I can say right now that would say he should not have reacted that way because it was careless, irresponsible, and lost his team the game. I cannot say that because in the moment the call was bad enough, in my opinion, that to react that way is only what he deserves.
Listen, no, you can yell and scream on the sideline. I have no problem with that. But it's he ran onto the court. He went onto the playing surface and went immediately face-to-face with the referee.
Right.
That is what you're not allowed to do. I don't mind if you hoot and holler on the sideline. That's fine. I have no problem with that because you're on the sideline. You're on your bench.
But as a basketball fan and a commentator, you understand that referees don't listen to coaches screaming from the sideline.
They do sometimes. No. I think you'd be surprised.
I mean, they do sometimes talk back, but I shouldn't say that.
I think when you ask a polite question to a referee, says, "Why did this happen?"
Right.
They will respond in their point of view why it was a foul. And that's the best way to communicate with them.
Right.
Now,
you're right.
Some coaches like to yell and scream and holler, and
then they won't answer.
But then it might have a psychological factor in the referee's head.
Right.
I mean, you don't know what's going on in their subconscious. You don't know.
Yeah, and I should say that as he entered the floor, there's no guaranteeing the ref was going to listen to him at that point anyway, because it obviously took him out of the whole contest.
Yep.
But the only point I'd make about the whole situation was that everybody's human. Referees as we are, referees are human as well, and they make mistakes. And in that situation, that you cannot crucify the referee for making a bad call. But I will say that I will not crucify Jim Boeheim for doing what he did in that moment because it was worthy of the situation. It was worthy of the call.
Listen, am I disgraced at what he did? No, because it was a really tough call.
Right.
And maybe was the biggest game of the year for Syracuse, coming off a heartbreaking loss to Boston College
First
at
loss
home.
of the season.
At home against a team that had 2 wins in conference, both against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
To lose that game, then now lose back-to-back games against Duke, and they don't have that easy of a schedule remaining. I mean, right now they currently sit 4th in the AP poll. Right now they are playing Maryland right now, and they're up by 8 in the first half. And then they go to Virginia, who's ranked 12th in the nation.
Right.
Virginia's a very talented team.
Virginia is their number. Virginia's ahead of Syracuse.
Yeah, Virginia's 14-1 in ACC play.
Yeah,
14-1
in ACC. Virginia is ahead of Syracuse. So that's true. I personally believe that Syracuse plays too well as a team to let this affect them, I'd say, in the tournament. What I will say is that I think they've been unseeded. And I think they're going to stay unseeded. I don't think they're going to be as dominant as they've been after these 2 losses.
Well, I would never bought into Syracuse as a clear number 1 in the country because their offense is too inconsistent for me at times.
Okay.
They do have the magic touch at the end of games. I can't deny it. They've won a bunch of close games this year. But according to bracketology from Joe Lunardi, they're still a number 1 seed. They're ranked 4th in the nation. They're still a number 1 seed in the East region, which is hosted in New York, so they'll get all the fans they want. They have a great chance to win the ACC tournament because their defense is phenomenal.
The only problem I have is they've been riding so high all season long. I mean, that I feel what's happening right now, these 2 losses, even though it sounds crazy, it's 2 losses. This is going to affect them greatly. I believe that. I think that this is going to play into their upcoming games.
You think it's going to have a psychological factor moving forward?
I think that they have been, as the phrase is, unseeded from where they were. I believe that there's been even though they're, as you said, number 1 in bracketology. Who would you credit that to? I forgot.
That's Joe Lunardi.
Joe
from
Lunardi.
ESPN. He's the one everyone looks at.
Right. Yeah, the one everybody looks at. So they are still number 1 in bracketology, but I believe they've been unseeded metaphorically. Does that make sense?
I don't know.
Or how can
I think you need to choose a different word besides unseeded.
Not metaphorical. Well, unseeded in the way that I feel that the 2 losses they suffered are going to play into I think they've been thrown into a slump a little bit.
Okay, I can see that. I understand that more than unseeded.
Yeah. That's what I want to say.
They're still going to be seeded in the tournament. They're still going to make.
I didn't mean unseeded in the tournament. I meant unseeded from being glorious and unbeatable and dominant. They're human.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, they've always been human.
When the women's team here at Iona was in on an 18-game winning streak, what is one thing that we said after they were beaten by Ryder? That they are beatable.
Yeah.
So you can't forget that. So here's a wake-up call for Syracuse that we're not immortal. That's what I was trying to say by unseeded.
Yes, it was a wake-up call.
Unseeded from the throne.
Yeah, unseeded from the throne. I think that's a fine way to put it. Listen, the loss to Boston College put them on edge, and then I think it's bad luck for them to then have to go to Duke and play what is possibly the toughest arena to play in, the toughest gym to play in the country, to go up against a team that has immense talent, that has a right of its own to win the national championship.
Right.
So I think it was unlucky for them to have to go to Duke after losing to BC. It was just the way the schedule worked out. Listen, Syracuse still has a chance to win the national title. I'm not going to deny that because they have Tyler Ennis, they got C.J. Fair, they have people who can play on offense.
Christmas.
This team has talent, but right now I think they do not deserve the top ranking which they own. They're number 4 right now. I think Florida is the clear number 1 team in the nation, and if you look at the rankings right now. The top 5, it goes Florida, Wichita State, Arizona, Syracuse, Kansas. Duke is number 6. Right now, I think Kansas is playing better basketball than Syracuse.
And when they play better basketball, they can scare you. Mm-hmm. Kansas can make it. Kansas can do a lot because obviously not only with Wiggins and what he can do, but I feel like Joel Embiid and just the overall talent they have on that team. When they play well and they showcase that talent, they can scare you. And as you said, if I had to compare these 2 teams, Syracuse and Kansas right now, to NBA teams, can I do that?
Sure.
I would compare them to, I'd compare Syracuse to Indiana, the Pacers, and I would compare Kansas to the Heat.
Why?
I would say that based on the fact that I feel like Kansas possesses more talent than Syracuse. Do you not agree with me from the way that you were looking at me?
I mean, I think they both possess the same amount of talent. I really think they're even. I just think the way they're playing basketball right now.
Okay, well, I feel that Kansas has more talent than Syracuse, but I feel that Syracuse does more things right in their respective roles to win games as a team.
Okay.
They play better as a team.
Okay, I mean, listen, Kansas just beat Texas, who's 19th ranked in the country at home, 85-54. And that's a dominant win over a team that was ranked. And their closing the schedule is not hard for Kansas. They got Oklahoma, and then they go to Oklahoma State, which may be a toughie, but then they're home to Texas Tech, who they were lucky to beat the first time. Andrew Wiggins, a buzzer beater. And then they are at West Virginia. I think they have a chance to move up, and if they perform well in their conference tournament, because right now they're ranked number 1. And if they can win the Big 12 once again, I could see them moving up. I really can, because Syracuse. Yeah. I mean, Syracuse has a chance to win their tournament as well. But if they're, I think Kansas is on its way up, and if they win the Big 12, I could see them getting into that 4 spot if Syracuse doesn't win the ACC, assuming Florida, Wichita State, and Arizona take care of business in their conferences.
I understand that. I feel like the one thing that I've noticed about Kansas throughout the year so far is that they haven't had their run yet. They may have had, don't quote me to that because they may have had a run already. But what I'm saying is,
I'm going to look that up right now just to put you on the spot.
But yeah, go ahead. But what I mean is, overall, I feel like not every gun has been unleashed for Kansas, where they haven't really showed the amount of, basically the amount of stuff they're capable of doing yet. And I feel like now maybe the jumping off point for them to try and make this a big move. And I feel that if they get hot now. That's what I'm trying to say. When they get hot to a point where they can go on a run now, I feel like they're going to be the team pretty much as they enter the tournament. I mean, that's how I feel.
Their longest winning streak of the year is 7. If they win out the rest of the regular season, they'll have another 7-game winning streak heading into the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
So they'll be as hot as they were all season long.
Right.
But the Big 12's funky. So stuff's going to happen. Oklahoma State was the preseason favorite, and they're 5-9 in conference.
Right.
So anything can happen in this conference. Listen, March Madness is quickly approaching. It's my favorite time of year because
is it?
CBS is on my TV, and then I got the other games on my laptop, and I got one on my iPad. It is awful. My mom hates it because if I go home during it, I sit in front of the couch for all day, from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m. In that span, I am watching basketball.
How do you pay attention to 3 games at once?
I find a way. And then I'm on Twitter on my phone following all the rest of the games.
I can't do that. I have to lock into 1. Maybe 2. But I can't do more than 2. You do more than 2?
I have before. I really have.
I don't think I could do that because you can't lock into 1.
Listen, if there's a team I want to watch, if there's a game where say Iona's in a game, I'm going to watch only that Iona game. But if there's a bunch of games on that are intriguing,
right,
I'm going to watch the rest of them. Like last year, once Florida Gulf Coast went on their run, they won their first game, I tuned into the rest of their games. I put them on my laptop,
right,
I put them on my iPad, and I watched them.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to find the intriguing matchup to look for.
I mean, you got to learn to do that in the field we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much have to learn how to pay attention to more than one thing. So, but speaking of Iona,
good segue.
The Gales. Oh, here we go. You ruined it for my demo tape now.
You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone listening to Anthony.
All right, so Iona has, in a general term, between the men's and women's teams have big games coming up this weekend.
They have humongous games this week.
Humongous,
I'm astronomical.
Excited. I'm excited.
Gigantic.
Ginormous.
There you go.
Ginormous. The men's team will be at Manhattan Dratty Gymnasium this Friday in Riverdale, the Bronx, New York, in front of a raucous crowd with some high intensity, with a big high intensity atmosphere. Very, very indicative of what the tournament is going to look like.
Yep.
And it's going to be exciting.
It's going to be great. We'll do the Manhattan game first, and then we'll touch on the women after.
Absolutely.
The Manhattan game, if the Gales win, they secure the MAC regular season championship.
They clinch.
Their magic number is 1. And I mean, is there a team you'd rather do it against than Manhattan at Manhattan?
No.
Now, granted, that place, Dry Gymnasium, is going to be rocking. It's
going to be wild, and that's why
it's going to be rocking.
ESPN has chosen to put this game on ESPN2.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, definitely.
Rightfully so, because this game, it's going to get chippy, because it always does between Iona and Manhattan. The fans are on top of you in Manhattan.
It's a great fan base, and we have to say that.
I know. It's the one downfall of Manhattan. I despise them as a school, but their fan base is unbelievable.
I got a funny story whenever you decide to stop talking.
I'm never going to stop talking. No, the game on Friday is going to be unbelievable. And
it will be.
It's going to be a clash of styles. It's Tim Clues for Steve Mazziello.
It's going to be a little revenge factor from Steve.
I think Coach Mazziello is definitely eyeing this game, looking for a little bit of revenge, because his team was picked preseason number 1. They haven't delivered thus far. Granted, they still have the talent to win the MAC championship.
Right, and they did deliver for a large portion of the season. But what's amazing to me is Iona's in this spot right now.
11 in a row. 11 wins in a row.
Now, even though they have proven themselves to be a great team the past few, we know that. What I did see earlier on was the fact that I didn't really buy into that again from the way that they were playing very, very win one, lose one.
They were 8-8 at one point this season. They were 8-8.
Right, and that's what I think. The fact that if they came out and lost, if they went on a small slide, whatever, it happens, whether it was in the beginning or middle of the season. But I felt a very mediocre atmosphere around that team. That's what I felt.
Well, actually, Coach Clues touched on that. He went on WFAN today. He talked with...
was he with Mike?
He was with Mike.
Oh, wow.
Went on at around 3, a little bit after 3. And
awesome.
Mike asked him, he's like, what turned this team around? You guys were 8-8 in mid-December. What turned it around?
Right.
He cited how Isaiah Williams had to go home for a family emergency for 5 games.
Yeah.
They went 1-4 during that stretch. Isaiah Williams came back and they started winning.
Wow. So he credited it to Isaiah
Williams' return gave this team a spark, and they're moving forward.
That's amazing. After all, AJ English and David Lowry have done down the stretch here.
And don't forget Sean.
No, don't forget Sean at all. But I mean, Sean, has proven himself enough. I think it was great seeing how David Lowry and AJ English have been playing of late. But that's interesting how you talk about how he credited Isaiah.
Well, he didn't credit Isaiah. He just said that was a turning point.
Right.
He said that was the moment our team clicked.
Well, that's something good for Isaiah to hear.
No, it's great.
That's a great morale booster.
I mean, look, Isaiah's not even in the top 3 in scoring on the team. He averages 10.5 points per game, but he just brings something that teams lack, that Iona lacked before.
Do we feel a little bit? Do we feel a very high intensity from Isaiah?
I mean, Isaiah leaves everything out on the floor, and I think that's what's known. And he's a good driver to the hoop. He slashes. He can hit it from 3. He hits 42% from beyond the arc.
Right.
That's second highest on the team behind only Sean.
Right.
So listen, Isaiah Williams, he can bring a lot to the table. And this Iona team right now, they are hot, and this is the moment where you want to be hot heading into the tournament.
I think that this game coming up against Manhattan, I think what it does is that if Iona can win this game, now, I mentioned before, we talked about this, and I mentioned how it would be putting the nail in the coffin against Manhattan. We can debate about that all we want, but if Iona wins this game, I say it's their season-defining moment. Because I feel, though, as if they put Manhattan away. If they can put Manhattan away on a revenge game that Manhattan is trying in front of their home crowd to show everybody that the Gales did not have their number this season, they won one, but they can't win them both. If Iona can come out and put it away at a very, as we talked about, intense atmosphere and win both games regular season-wise against the Jaspers, what more do you need to know from Iona? What more do you need to see?
Listen, I'm well aware, and Manhattan's coming off a really tough loss. They lost on the road to Siena.
Yeah.
Jimmy Patos with the Saints' biggest win of the year by far.
Yeah.
The Saints team is playing well. They've won 2 in a row. This Manhattan team, they're sitting at 3rd right now. They could slip all the way down to 4th if they lose another game and Canisius wins out. And listen, who would have thought Manhattan, preseason number 1, one of the best defensive teams in the MAC we thought heading into the season, would fall to number 4. And if that matches up, if Iona wins tomorrow and say Manhattan falls to number 4 matchup, they're almost guaranteed to meet up in the semifinals, 1v4 matchup.
Yeah.
A rematch of last year's MAC championship. They'll meet up again this time in the semifinals if Manhattan falls to Iona, and if Canisius can win out.
That's true.
So it'd be unbelievable. But again, there are 4 teams that can win it for the men. There's Iona, Quinnipiac, Manhattan, Canisius. Anyone else besides them, I'll be shocked. But of those 4 teams, any of them can win the MAC championship. Any of them.
But what if you had to? You speak of any of them, I guess you give them all an equal shot.
I really do give them all an equal shot.
So
because Quinnipiac is a nightmare for Iona because they have monsters down low.
Hurst,
Drame. Yeah, they have monsters down low for Quinnipiac.
Right.
Manhattan and Iona is just it's competitive basketball every time, and Canisius has Billy Barron, the best player in the MAC. He can carry a team. He's unbelievable, and you saw that here at the Heinz Center when the Golden Griffs beat the Gales.
He carried the team. He carried the team. It was all Billy Barron. I don't really see, the one flaw I see with how Billy Barron can do that is the fact that is not always going to work. And I feel like that night here where they won that game, it came down to the last second in a careless turnover by, I think it was AJ English, that allowed the Griffs to win. And one thing that scares me about that fact is that if it wasn't for Billy Barron in that game, they wouldn't have been anywhere near winning that game.
Well, no, that's Billy Barron has to play well for Canisius to play well.
Right. So if they shut them down, they get shut down.
You know how hard it is to shut down Billy Barron? No one's done it in the MAC so far this year.
That's true, but it can happen. I mean, when you put all your faith in one player, well, I guess it's similar to D'Amica Martinez. D'Amica Martinez hasn't really been shut down at all. And she's been carrying, I think a large portion she's carried the team. But it's important to have the supporting cast members when you enter when you're playing the toughest of the tough. You can't rely on one player to carry the team. I'm sorry. You can't.
So you're saying that they are not contenders to win the MAC title?
No, I would not say that. I would just say that there are teams that I would probably put at least one.
If you were to rank them 1 through 4,
I'd put one ahead of them. And which one would I put ahead of them? I'd probably would go Iona 1.
Okay.
I would put Iona 1. I would say Manhattan 2. I would say Canisius 3, Quinnipiac 4.
Okay.
Can you relate to that?
I honestly, I would probably say the exact same thing at this moment in time. A lot can change on Friday if Manhattan beats Iona and cools the Gales down. Then a lot can change heading into Springfield. But as of right now, I would say that 4 in order as well.
Right.
But granted, I think it's the percentages as to maybe Quinnipiac winning compared to Iona is not a wide margin.
No,
at all.
It's neck and neck. It's very close. It's very close.
At all.
So even if we give that order, it's not saying that there's a lot, like you said, there's a small difference between them.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight race.
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. I love it. I love it. You better watch every game from home.
What are you talking about? Oh, up at Springfield?
Yeah, you better watch every game.
I will. Absolutely.
Good.
So now the women's team.
I'm gonna quiz you.
You're gonna quiz me.
I am.
You don't have faith in me? You don't have faith in my...
I watched last year 19 of the 20 basketball games in Springfield last year, and it was the best time of my life.
Weren't you there?
I was there. I sat on press row with my laptop editing footage and watching basketball for 12 hours a day for 4 days straight, and it was amazing.
There you go.
It was amazing.
Well, you're going to do that again, hopefully.
Of course I am.
What are the dates? What are the dates again?
The tournament begins March 6th. And runs through the 10th for the women, I believe. The same for the men. So March 6th is when the playoffs begin, and then March 10th, Monday, is when the championships are held. Women, I believe, are held at noon. Men are held in the evening.
Okay. Good to know.
Tune in.
I will. Everybody else tune in. John, I hope you're giving a plug, I guess, to everybody else to tune in.
Tune in to IonaInsider.com.
He's putting it on me as if he's giving me the information. Do you have anything to say about the women's team?
The women's team, they have a huge matchup this Thursday going to Quinnipiac. It is not going to be an easy end of the regular season for the women's basketball team. Head coach Billy Gossi has to go against the Bobcats, who are currently 4th in the MAC. They play phenomenal basketball at home. The Bobcats just beat St. Peter's by 29 or 25 at home, so they killed them, outscoring them in the second half 46-16. And then March 2nd, possibly one of Iona's women's basketball biggest game in years is going to be home against the Marist Red Foxes on Senior Day. Because if we win on Thursday, the women's team secures at least a share of the MAC regular season title, but they do secure a number 1 seed heading into the tournament.
Which is very important.
Which is
imperative.
It's pretty important because right now Quinnipiac is the 4, Fairfield is a 3, and Fairfield's playing fantastic basketball right now.
You don't want to face Fairfield.
And then that matchup March 2nd, if Iona can beat Marist, and Marist is going to come in hungry. Marist, knowing we beat them in McCann Arena, they're going to come in with a fire that Iona's not seen this year.
Mm-hmm.
But if Iona can cool that fire and hose them down, maybe they can remain. Thank you. Maybe they can be regular season MAC champions. Sole possession of number 1 place, dethroning Marist in the regular season would be an achievement in itself, and it would give Iona astronomical amount of confidence heading into Springfield. It would give them so much swagger heading into the tournament. It'd be I think then you would have to put them as a favorite to win the tournament. But if Marist beats Iona March 2nd, I really think it's a toss-up, 50-50 coin flip.
As much as you want to say that, as much as we want to say number 1, in the tournament gives them such an astronomical amount of swagger, as you put it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful of the fact that you don't want them to fall asleep. You don't want them to fall asleep, and that happens sometimes to number 1 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I would say is that I think that you can't ease up at all. So in other words, you have to finish the season strong, and you have to finish gunning for number 1. But I also hope that nothing's a blowout. I hope nothing's a blowout. I hope
I think if we blow someone out, that's fine.
No, I hope nothing is a
Why?
blowout.
What?
I hope that I hope we have to work for a win to make sure that if we get that 1 seed.
Are you saying in the tournament, or are you saying at the end of the season?
No, the end of the season.
Okay.
The end of the season, I hope nothing's a blowout.
I will tell you that both the Quinnipiac and Marist games will not be blowouts either way.
I hope that it doesn't go against the odds, and it is a blowout. I hope that it's not a blowout, it stands by what it should be, and that the Gales have to work for a win, that they do get the win. Of course, I hope that. But I hope they have to work for it so that when they do enter the tournament as a number 1 seed, they don't enter it falling asleep on themselves.
I will be shocked if the Quinnipiac or Marist game is a blowout in either direction. I will be shocked. I will be floored. Because both these teams, Iona likes to play the close games. They've only started to beat teams handily when they just beat Niagara and Canisius by over 15 points apiece.
Right.
They do tend to play the close games, whether they are supposed to or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're used to playing the close games, and I expect 2 more very close games this Thursday and then Sunday. And Sunday, by the way, is a doubleheader. It's senior day for both the men and the women. Men are at 2:30 following the women, so the men play Ryder that day.
Excited
so you better come to the
Heinz
Center March 2nd to support your Gales.
I'll be there. I'm doing the game with you.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that to everyone else listening who's going to be listening.
All right, well.
You were so insulted by that. You were like, me?
I know what you're forgetting about. Well, everybody listening right now to Opposites Attract has just been listening to our college basketball analysis up until this point. We went through Manhattan, Iona, and of course the Syracuse, basically the state of the rankings, bracketology at this point. But we'll be back here on Opposites Attract. We'll be talking about the Combine. We'll be talking about a bunch of other things that will definitely suit your fancy. So join us back here in a couple of minutes. We'll here on Opposites Attract.